All right, we'll come to order on the regular township board meeting. We're going to pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Our regular board meeting, old business. Let's do a roll call first.
Sherry Gasparovic, Township Board.
Jason Jekus, Township Board.
Tom Snowden, Township Board.
Cody Reynolds, Winfield Township Trustee.
Barbara Graham, Winfield Township Office Manager. Becky Dykes, Assistance Coordinator.
And
Matt Podolsky, Fire Department. Thank you, sir.
all right, let's start with old business.
Okay, so the first and only item under old business is those meeting minutes. We are starting to finally make a little bit of a dent in that. The first one, and the only one you have before you tonight, are the meeting minutes from February 13th. These are the meeting minutes from a special meeting for the consideration of the annual financial report, or AFR, for 2024. I will allow the board members some time to read that. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes or edits or anything like that? All right, so I'll hand it back to you for a motion and vote.
We have a motion to accept the AFR minutes of 2024.
I'll make a motion to accept them as written.
I second as written.
Any other discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? AFR 2024 is passed unanimously.
Okay, thank you, folks. I'm going to pass this down. Sherry, if you just wouldn't mind signing this copy as our secretary, I would greatly appreciate that.
There's no other old business. We'll go ahead and move on to new business.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. Under new business, here we go. Under new business, we're going to start with a quick update on the Poisel Park restoration project. So, as the board members know, and for those who may be joining us for the first time, at a recent previous meeting, the board considered a proposal to partner with Purdue University and their forestry and land management department on the management of about 3.5 acres of property the township owns that is connected to the community center property. So we're talking about just south of 231 in the unincorporated community of Leroy. A big thanks again to board member Jekus, who provided the really colorful map that we have in here again. And this is just, again, as a demonstration and sort of to remind folks of what the project would look like. So as a couple of updates, I have indicated to Purdue that we accepted the agreement and that we want to pursue the partnership. They were very happy. They answered a couple of our clarifying questions, such as, who is actually making the tree order? Are we making it? Are we just paying them, or are we just paying them, etc.? and different things like that. So as an update on that, the only species right now that we know we won't get and that we will have to replace on that list is the hazelnut. So you may want to just note that. We are going to replace it with another fruit or nut-bearing tree. We wanted something that played into that same ecological niche, if you will. And so some of our options there include the persimmon, the walnut, and some of the other berrying trees, elderberry shrubs, etc. So we have to place this order on October 1st. If we wait any longer than that, we are likely not going to get these. That's when it opens up for the year. So my plan is to place this via phone call with the state nursery at 7 a.m. our time, 8 a.m. Indy time on October 1st. And I'll pause there because I'm going to share as a question. There's more though on this. Go ahead.
What happened with the hazelnut?
It's just not on the state's list this year.
Oh,
So
okay.
we operated off of the state nursery's list of trees that they had last year.
Okay.
And there's just occasional change. And for whatever reason, and actually credit goes to Barb, she was the one who found that.
Okay.
But it just doesn't appear on their list yet this year. So I will ask, but it was not on the list of
Okay,
trees that they have
that's okay.
advertised.
What about the apple or something like that?
So the only thing about the apple trees is there's not very many of them that are actually native.
Oh, right.
Yeah, most apples aren't. And I'm trying to recall off the top of my head. I don't recall them one being on that list.
Okay.
But I can send that full list around to the board. But one of the things that was noted to me by Don Carlson, who's the head forester, is that they have a lot of luck with persimmon trees in our area. And so that was his first recommendation in terms of replacing it, which is why it stuck in my head. So what I can do is I can forward the board members that list. If there is any strong feelings or opinions on anything on there that maybe isn't on this already, we can certainly talk about it. But obviously I'll have to place that order, like I said, on the first. Given your previous authorization, it's not like we'll need another vote or anything, but as you know, I like to keep you fully involved and invested in the project. So a couple of things, turning your attention back, but that's a good question. Any other questions about the tree portion, the ecological restoration portion? Okay, so second component. As we know, and as Jason has illustrated here for us, we intend to do a hiking or nature trail throughout the wooded area, including those little plaques that you see that Jason has examples of on here, to show and tell people what they're looking at, telling them what native species, what they provide for the environment, etc. Right? And so one of the things that we have done with that is that was going to be a township expense that we were going to have to cover as part of this project. I spoke with Bill Emerson, the Lake County surveyor, about this project months ago before it was even fully flashed, and he was very interested in it. And following the board's vote at our last regular meeting to move this project forward, I reconnected with Mr. Emerson about this, and he actually met me down at the Leroy Community Center last Friday. When we did that, I showed him the area that we're going to be restoring, but where his interest lies and where I think this makes a really cool secondary phase, if you will, or secondary component to this project is really twofold. So if you look at the map, you can see there's sort of that dry ditch bed, right? That acts as kind of the barrier between the maintained property of the community center there to the west and what we are kind of calling that restored property there to the east, right? Right now it's that empty field. And you can see I kind of used my pen, but it's this little section right here, right? And when you go there to the property, you can see it. I mean, there's a full-on dry ditch bed. It goes up both sides, etc. So a couple of things. Number one, the culvert that connects to goes under 145th, which is the road right there that the community center is on. And to the south of that, those neighbors have routinely had drainage problems. Tom and I can both attest, but it is very regular that on the south side of the road, particularly directly across from that culvert, once it starts raining, that land does not dry up until it's the very last thing, whether it's mid or late summer. And what Mr. Emerson was able to tell me is that culvert was actually intended to be lower, and it was supposed to run that way because if you follow the ditch line back onto our property in north, it dead ends into government recognized wetlands, which then feed into that pond that's on the neighboring parcel. Well, that's not how the water runs now. Because the culvert sits so low, it just sits on the other side of that road. So one of the things that Bill Emerson and I were talking about is fixing that culvert and that entire drainage passway so that at number one, it works correctly. So that we provide a benefit to the surrounding residents, let alone anything we're doing to the park directly. So that's number one. Number two, if we're going to ecologically restore the other side of it, Mr. Emerson and I were talking, and it would make sense to make the waterways on the property also work. And obviously, we're not intending this to be a navigable waterway or anything like that, but we want the drainage to run the right way. And we would like to put sort of a little walking footpath bridge over it so that people can get to the treed-in paths and everything that we're doing without having to go all the way around through the emergency management area where the storm siren and firewall is and go that way. We don't want that. So this will help us have a better defined ditch bed so that we can put something over it. The third thing is sort of where it gets to that backside of the property. And this is the part that I think I'm most excited about is, so kind of right where Jason's got that compass, right? That little north compass there. Where you see that immediate tree line, that's not the wetlands, but sort of everything that on our side of the property that is north of that tree line, but sort of also north of the N in that compass. So it's really just that top portion. That's the actually federally recognized wetlands. And again, the way it's supposed to work is the ditch is supposed to run into the wetlands, and the wetlands are supposed to feed into the pond. When the pond overfills, the wetlands are actually lower, and it's supposed to kind of contain the water, hence why it is a wetland. It doesn't fully drain. Well, again, it doesn't really work properly, right? This is leading to some bank erosion for the pond owner and some of these other things. So he's talking about actually, and this is the part we have yet to see, but yet to determine, but again, having a little bit more of a complex drainage project go on to help that actually work out, which may then include what we've talked about previously of extending a portion of the pond onto our property. So I think that's really exciting because number one, we've talked about this for a long time. This would give not only access to those folks, the public who might want to use that pond through an MOU, but actually give us, the township, a portion of the pond that was directly owned by us, so that no matter what, regardless of who their owner is, on the other side, we could always maintain that public access. And I think that's pretty cool. In a day and age where there aren't a lot of low cost or no cost options for families, and at a time where I can think of many worse things that young people can be doing other than going fishing, I think this is a great example of government trying to bring amenities to the people. The other side of that is when I walked Emerson through the plan of the hiking trail and the plaques, he became very excited because they get what he refers to as education funds every year, MS4 education funds. And he has offered to be the ones who have the county make the plaques and put up the plaques for us. So that, as I said earlier, that was going to be a township expense. And basically they're offering to take that off our hand. And he didn't ask for this because he said, you know, it's not like we want to be on the partnership sign that, you know, Purdue has asked for, but actually I see no problem with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying this whole thing is a partnership between Winfield Township, Lake County, and Purdue University. I think in this instance, more the better, and it shows government coming together to work for the people.
Right.
So all that to say, there is a secondary meeting on October the 2nd, so this Thursday, with Mr. Emerson, some of the MS4 staff, and others. I'm going down to the community center at about 1 or 1:30, I think, to meet with him to really flesh this out further. But I'm very excited about this because I really do feel like this is just one of those things that's coming together. You know, it started kind of as an idea, as a thought, as kind of an abstract goal, and through each of us, it's becoming much more finite and tangible. And I think that's really awesome. I think we can have a lasting generational impact not only on this property, but our community, because as our community continues to become developed and suburbanized, these kinds of spaces are going to decrease to a point where we may not have any. And at least with our due diligence and our forethought, we can preserve this for generations to come and truthfully make it better. Because I think it really does check all the boxes. It's better for the environment. It provides a no cost or low cost amenity to the public. And then outside of it, if we're actually, fixing historical drainage issues, that's just an additional benefit to the community that doesn't actually really relate in any direct way to township property itself. So all told, I think it's great. I would love to get feedback on the board on what you all think about that. Again, this is just a discussion piece. This isn't there's no votes, there's no anything like that. Nothing's final. And yeah, I want to get your feedback. I want to get your thoughts so that when I go into this meeting with Mr. Emerson, I'm, fully equipped with what the team thinks.
If they, dig that ditch deeper, are we still gonna have access to that extra parking spot?
Yes, because that's the part that's filled in. Like that's fully, if you look at that, that actually is like a covered drainage line, if you will, and it opens up. So in my mind, and what I would request of them is if we are going to dig that out to bury that line deeper, we would still keep that front portion, at a even keel so that yes, we could have access to that.
When I filled that in, I don't remember seeing a tile, drain. There is a,
If you actually have step down there and you go to the south side of the road, you'll see where it comes
I
out.
know on
And
the
then,
south side.
and then if you look really carefully, because the weeds are cut down there right now, you can see it on our side too.
Okay.
It just kind of juts out some.
Sounds like a good idea.
Mhm.
Agree.
You're doing the work.
I mean, it's been a long time, that flooding going on the south side.
I know, I just feel bad that Mr. Nagel passed away recently and doesn't get to see the fact that we're gonna fix this because it's right there,
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or comments, or is there anything that you think I'm missing or that we would like to see?
Because at one time,
It's a great idea.
John Curley wanted to put a pond,
Mhm,
and Rolly wanted to put a pond there where the playground is.
mhm.
They actually want to dig a pond there.
Yep, and whereas I think we can do that, but I think the better option instead of digging our own, not right there, obviously, is attaching down
But
theirs.
that pond, the reason for the pond was because of the fire.
Right, there was no firewall.
There was no firewall at that time.
Yep, and it was meant to just be standing water that they could drop a hose in or a pump in and,
Yeah, and Rolly come up with the firewall, figured a pond was gonna be, there's gonna be a lot of hazard. Chances
What is the liability for a pond?
pretty high.
pretty
That's
high. You
the
have
thing.
that, and so that's why that would be like a secondary phase. Nobody's saying we're
Yeah.
gonna do that immediately. And to be honest with you, one of those things that I try to always keep in mind is knowing, or at least attempting to know when I don't know something. And so I'm not an ecological expert or an engineer or anything like that of any kind. So I told Mr. Emerson that same line. And I said, if it's just fixing the drainage to make the wetlands work better and feed into the pond appropriately and vice versa, I'm fine with that because you can't actually, if you do anything to the wetlands, you have to do wetland reclamation anyway.
Oh, yeah, wetlands
So,
are protected.
Right, and so my point there is, I know that I don't know a lot of those technical pieces, and so we're gonna follow the experts on that, which is why I want folks like him involved.
Right.
Now, I know there are certainly ways to do that, because in terms of the insurance liability and other things for ponds, because many of these other communities, or townships, have ponds on properties and different things like that, right? So there's a way to do it. But my point is we're gonna do it right. We're not gonna just do it kind of, half-cocked, if you will.
Right.
We're gonna make sure that we cross our Ts and dot our Is. But yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I
Sounds
always
good.
wonder about those retention ponds that all these subdivisions put in.
Mhm.
Do they have laws and?
So usually it depends on where they're put in. But normally if they're like in a community, like a subdivision, then it's gonna fall under that town or that city. There aren't too many new subdivisions being built in the unincorporated communities anymore, but in those instances where that may happen, it would fall under county ordinances.
Okay. Sounds good.
I think
All
it's a
right.
great idea.
Awesome. Well, thank you. If you all have comments, questions, concerns as we go about this, obviously feel free to let me know. And anything you might think of particularly before Thursday or at around 1 will be helpful because I can get real-time thoughts and responses from the surveyor and his staff.
Oh, I'm good with the trees too, whatever they have
I like the
available.
persimmon tree too.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Sounds good to me.
Well, and
Not a
like I said,
walnut
with-
tree, Lou.
Yeah, well, and that's
No.
kind of why I stayed with them, because those are
No,
kind of
no,
considered
walnut
bad.
trees, oh,
Well, they poison the ground around them.
yeah, you
They're
can't
bad-
plant
well,
anything
they're bad for
around
other
them.
plants.
Yeah. Yep, I've got
Um,
2 in my backyard and I wish I could get them cut down.
Yep, so we'll do
Huge.
that, and then just keep in mind too, with the woods, you'll start with, on all sides with the shortest trees, and you'll work your way into the tallest, so that's how it'll be structured generally, the wooded area.
Big deer too.
But I will also tell you, the last few times we've been out there, there have been deer, I mean, like the last probably 6 or 7 times I've been there, there have been deer back there. So my point in saying all this is this will be very good for the environment and just.
Give them someplace to
everything
go.
else.
Yeah,
Yep.
the precinct,
Little fox
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
coyote.
exactly.
deer walking across there.
Okay,
All right.
moving on, then we'll go to the next item. So this again, just discussion about the potential purchase of land for Palmer Park. So we talked about this a little bit, but I wanted to bring this more formally in front of the board. There are no associated items in your packet. Again, this is just a discussion. If anything becomes more serious and direct, there will be something for you all to review and look at. So historically, the township has rented Palmer Park, which is really that grassed-in space behind the property we already own there at the point of Palmer where the sign is, and it's sort of used as a turnaround now, but there's the post for the basketball hoop on there, right? So that plus that green space behind it has been traditionally considered Palmer Park. For many, many years, the township rented it from a local landowner. I think we paid him like $1,000 a year for it. And we stopped doing that, I would say, in like the 2000s at some point, maybe even the late 90s. And at that time, I believe the property changed owners. I actually think it's maybe changed owners 2 or 3 times now since then. But recently, the property was purchased by Mike Lambert just a couple years ago, clerk treasurer here at Town of Winfield. And he has maintained it. And earlier this year, he received a tentative offer on the property, so he listed it. But ultimately that fell through, and the listing has since timed out, if you will, so the listing is no longer active. Because the township used to manage that, and because Palmer is technically the only individual community within unincorporated Winfield Township that does not have its own park, the idea occurred to me that we may want to purchase that property outright and preserve it for the township, and again have what we would call a small pocket park, right? So nothing that's ever intended to be enormous or elaborate, just something that has, a small playground configuration, as well as, a refurbished, probably half of a basketball court and a hoop, for the purpose of use of the community. And if you think about it, that park, not only would it serve the very small community of Palmer, but it would also therefore be the closest park to Stony Run Estates. So again, this is something that in theory, kids could really just walk down the road to. Now, I don't know if anybody wants to walk down Randolph, but you get my point. It's very close parks and park in proximity to their home. In fact, even closer in that instance than would be Randolph Park on Randolph Street. I will be fully upfront with you. I do not have an asking price yet. I know that when the private landowner wanted to buy it, the price for the property is about $60,000, and obviously we can't afford that, and I would not even ask the board to consider moving forward on a price like that. Through some research, we have been able to find out that Mr. Lambert was able to purchase the property at tax sale for not an insignificant sum, but not a large sum. And it's something that I think even a $10,000 to at most $20,000 offer would more than quadruple the amount of money he spent on it. And so I think we could make him a fair offer that would also be good to our balance books, our balance sheets. But before I even sit down with Mr. Lambert to discuss that and to find out what even might be a negotiable price, I wanted to take the board's temperature. I wanted to see what the board's interest in this matter was. I know we have limited funds, and I know we're entering into a stage of uncertainty regarding our funds with the property tax changes and everything else. So again, there's no I in team, and that's how I'm going to view this. So I wanted to put this before you, see what the board thinks, and kind of get an idea of how we might want to pursue this, or even if we want to pursue this.
What's the size?
back 8/10 of an acre, I think we determined. I think it's like 8/10 of an acre. Do you know the area I'm talking about, Tom?
I know where the sign is, but I never
It's
been,
basically right behind it. It's just, there's a cemented in, asphalted in, effectively
Is it
half a
all-
court.
I mean, how much of it is asphalt, how much is
So
grass?
we own the asphalt. Everything that's asphalted in, we already own.
So this is,
We own like, it's less than 1/10 of an acre right there. And then this is everything that abuts it on that back side, heading east.
is there any trees on that, or it's
There's
just,
a couple, but not many. I mean, there's maybe 4, I would
I
say.
don't even know if there's that many.
Yeah, and I think some of those might be little
And
guys
one
that just,
huge rock,
yes, and one huge rock,
huge.
like an ornamental style rock. Like something that we could probably even just get engraved with something on it if we really want it. I would say
Plaque
it's
on
that big. I mean, it's that big.
Hey, that rock has a history.
That's.
I won't repeat it.
I bet it does.
But I've
Um,
heard
Yeah, I bet it does.
what happens in.
So full disclosure,
Disease in Palmer.
Becky's family owned it a couple owners ago. They were one of the ones that the township actually rented it from for a while. Obviously, she stands to make no personal gain on this. Her family has not owned it in decades,
Quite a long time.
a long time. But just full disclosure, not a conflict of interest or anything like that. But I didn't want anybody to be surprised to be like, didn't, Becky's husband's family own that? But yeah, it's about 8/10 of an acre if memory serves. It's large. The portion we would be purchasing is just a large open grass space. I do think there's like 3 or 4 trees. I think one of them is a large tree. The other ones are very small little ones. And to Becky's point, there is one large rock. But I do remember, now granted, this is stretching back to when I was young, but there was an old jungle gym on that property for a little while.
Yeah, I don't know who the trustee was at the time, but there at one point was a small shelter, I believe, on there.
Mhm.
And also honestly, some very old dilapidated playground equipment.
It was-
I don't know where they
I
got it.
always remember it as being very old as well. I don't ever remember it
It
as being.
didn't last long.
Yeah.
It's-
So again, that would be something that would happen in stages, right? That would be something where we would, if we were interested in, we would make the purchase of the property. And then over time, the next year, maybe 2 years, however long it takes us to save up for it. But we would intentionally then save for playground equipment or for resurfacing that, half of a basketball court and putting in a hoop up. Those kinds of things. Obviously, that's an area we already do spend money on maintaining because that's one of the gardens that our township gardener Denise Pruitt maintains for us in that frontage area there, which I think everybody, if you've noticed it, it does look nice. It looks much better kept than it ever did.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well,
very pleased with that.
now, I do have something to bring up though about that area.
Mhm.
So now, there used to be posts there with chains or whatever.
Yep.
So people could not park on that. Now we have a school bus that parks there every day.
Mhm.
That pad is not meant for traffic to be on.
Mhm.
So, and I just found out yesterday, I have a raccoon problem right now.
Mhm.
And I found out that some woman from Four Seasons is live trapping raccoons and bringing them to Palmer and letting them go. Are you kidding? I'm not kidding.
Yeah. So that's
But anyway, that parking area, needs to be locked off
right.
so people can't park there.
Yep. So no, I agree with you. I mean, in a perfect world or in what I kind of envision, we would do that same thing where we would put posts along the side of that with just like a single chain link across the top, like they have the
I
common
remember
parks.
those, yeah.
And that would sort of be a guard against people doing that. Now, granted, I also fully anticipate that for a while there will be people who hit that. You know what I mean? Like I anticipate that's going to be something we'll have to get replaced a couple of times. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not. Obviously, it's their fault. I'm not, and I don't mean that as like an advantage or a disadvantage. I think it's just if we plan to do this, it's something we need to plan for.
Yeah, and I think too, because they used wooden posts before.
Yeah.
They rot away, they
Mhm.
are easy to hit, knock over. I think if you put something more substantial.
Some big rocks,
Like big concrete what?
big rocks,
Big rocks.
More big rocks, yeah.
more big rocks, both ones there.
Well, I don't,
Just look decorative.
it's interesting because that rock is actually owned by Greer,
Oh, really?
who
Okay.
owns a lot of properties in Crown Point.
Yeah.
I don't remember his first name. But the rock was, what? I don't know. I don't know the story behind that, but I know the rock is so big that he bought the rock. I don't know for move, but it's so large that it can't be moved.
Yeah, you can't. It's there. Good luck.
So,
Yeah,
Steve Brewer, I think was his name.
I think you're right. Yeah. Thank you, Becky. Well, what does the board think? I mean, is this something that we want to have a conversation with Mike Lambert about? Is there an interest? Do we think it's
I think it's a
unnecessary?
good idea.
I would too, that's nice for that area. I've always felt they've been a little neglected.
I think it'd be good. I
I
think we
think
just
it would
need
be
to plan
very
out,
nice, yeah,
plan out how we go about attacking the whole overall project, but
Right.
come in time. Gotta start somewhere with.
Right, and I'm gonna have an initial conversation with Mike Lambert. We have not at all discussed price. I've already told you though, I'm not gonna go anywhere near what they were asking for from that public or that private buyer. But I also don't think Mike's gonna ask that of us. I think Mike understands that when you sell to government, it's a little bit of a different situation. And I think he also wants to sell it at this point. He made the comment to me that he just doesn't have the time to maintain it anymore. So I think it would be doing him a little bit of a favor too. So, and I say that to mean that I think if we can provide him some economic benefit, we can get this for, not as much as maybe it would have cost some others. Okay. If anybody, again, I'll let you know when I actually schedule that meeting with Mike, but if anybody has any thoughts, concerns, happy to listen, meet with you beforehand, or even bring you with me. Okay?
One thing you may want to bring up to him, which I'm not sure he's aware.
The house stuff buried there.
Yeah, I mean, there's houses buried, at least one house buried there.
Right
So
there, yeah.
for someone else to buy it for that amount, they really can't do anything with it.
Right, and to that point, I don't know why the last sale didn't go through, but that was my suspicion as of why.
house is buried there.
Well, there's one buried at the Leroy Community Center too.
Yeah.
The big
Just
grass
knock it
field,
down.
the big grass field to the west of us, so not the one we're talking about restoring, but the one on the other side, why it's called Poisel Park. The Poisels owned a house there, and when Mr. Poisel passed away, the intermediary owners, I guess you would call it, knocked the house down and, well, we've already determined they didn't actually own it. They thought they did. They knocked the house down and they buried it. And so
I
it's
think that
just,
was a common practice.
I think so too.
Well, remember those apartment buildings they built outside Four Seasons?
Mhm.
They knocked those down.
They left,
buried them.
they left the foundation there for a long time. In fact, where AutoZone sits, that house was, we burned it down for the fire department for training years
Right.
ago.
That's right.
And foundation ended up sitting there and getting buried over until the developer came in. Then it was the developer's issue to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why someone would want to build a brand new house
Mhm.
in Palmer. Those houses are
Yeah.
all
Older.
100 years old.
Yep. So, but I mean, to be honest with you, I just had an individual call me asking for zoning information that of course we don't have because the township doesn't do zoning anymore. But he bought a parcel in unincorporated Hebron on the Lake County side of the line. And he bought it because he wants his kids to go in. It's a spot for his kids to go do four-wheeling and stuff. So I'm just saying, at this point, I'm not assuming that anybody wants to buy a parcel out here to build a house. Who knows what they wanted it for, So it could have just been an opportunity to resell it at a higher value because property values keep climbing. Who knows, right? But like I said, what we do know is that sale didn't go through. He has approached us, and so now I'll have initial conversations with them to see what we need to do. And if things get a little more serious, I will work with Jeff, or if Jeff isn't feeling up to it, another attorney to make sure we follow the proper protocols for that. Because I do know there are some state laws about purchasing a property. So we'll make sure we do it right. Any other questions on that? Okay. Update. I'm going to ask the board to allow me to just mix up the process by which we do it. We're going to do the fire department first, and then I'll do my trustees update after,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Kondowski, would you like to step forward and provide the fire report?
Okay, this is, of course, coming from our fire chief. He wasn't able to be here today. Update on our staffing increase. This has reduced our mutual aid needs by over half, equaling faster faster response times for our residents. On our ambulance topics, town inquired for preliminary numbers for budgeting for an ambulance option in 2026. We've asked them for partnership with the potential of the fire department and the township to get this done this year or latest of next year. We do not have any new information from any manufacturer since last email that he has sent to Cody. Still waiting for quotes to return. We do have a demo ambulance unit coming out from one of the manufacturers to look at to see if it may fit needs of this community. On the request for the budget, we're hoping to meet with Trustee Reynolds next month to finalize a new contract for the next few years. You're talking 2 years, aren't you?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out, so that's a good point. And I was gonna inform the board of this too. So we're trying to figure out if we want to do like a 1 to 2 year contract, or because we are all up for reelection and regardless of whether we're running or not. You know, when I came into office, I enjoyed the situation where we didn't have to renegotiate a fire contract for 1 year. Regardless of whether it's me or not, I do think it would be nice to afford the next trustee that same benefit. So we're talking, that's where we're undetermined on number of years, but just wanted to clarify. Yes, he's right.
August, total number of calls we had for service was 161. Total number of calls for service for the township, I should say, was 39. For equipment, our portable radio grant, it's still pending through FEMA. They are just now releasing them, I believe, the grants. We still have the same equipment replacement schedule that was sent to you guys at the beginning of the year. We still have 3 members in academy. They started in July. They're going to be done in December. We hope they have them out on the streets right away. We've been doing some joint trainings with mutual aid partners last month and this month at various locations. So if you see us outside of the area, that's more likely what we're out there doing. We're still trying to stay close enough to keep responding. CPR classes are available upon request. We ask to have about 6 people to put on the class. You call us or schedule through email. We are having a search and rescue class scheduled for the month of December. It's becoming more and more popular for us to really get out there for search and rescue. So on our fundraising side, we got the schedule for the next golf outing. You're ready for it. It's July 10th.
I'm ready.
I know you are. We thank all of our sponsors, our volunteers that helped it out. We had a lot of volunteers help out this year. This weekend, we're gonna have a fire prevention open house. It's October 5th from noon to 4. We're gonna have games for kids, food trucks, various demonstrations, and hopefully a helicopter actually shows up. We're hoping it's gonna be available. We also have Stop, Drop, and Donate Saturday, December 6th, starting at 9 a.m. till about 2:30. So we'll be driving around. If you can get that out there to everybody, let us know. And that's going to be to all the subdivisions, and then bring the food to the food pantry for you guys. If you have any questions, email, call. We're sorry you can't make it, but that's what. Anything else?
Yes, stay there for a second. So
No.
2 things, and I understand this first one, you may not have an answer on it, just piqued my curiosity.
Yeah.
Again, if you don't know, I'll ask the chief. I really like that initial statistic, this about the staffing increases.
Yes.
When it says it's decreased mutual aid over half, do we know if that's since last year or is that?
Yes,
since
that's this last year. But, I do know, I don't know the numbers exactly, but being a volunteer, I do notice it that there is a lot less. We have a lot of double calls, and we're still able to handle those calls
Wonderful.
with the volunteers and the paid staff, especially at night, because those are the ones I know.
Right, wonderful. So thanks, sir. I appreciate it. And then the second thing was just a kudos, and it was in here too, but you guys were out at the Winfield Fall Harvest Fest as we were too.
Yeah.
Had a great day. Pendo and I may or may not have played a joke on the chief. That was pretty fun. But no, it was a good day. We appreciated that.
Who did?
You and me.
What did we do?
Talk about that later.
I don't remember.
Call Kevin. Anyway, does the board have any other questions or comments for Mr. Pendowski? Okay, so thanks, sir. So behind that in your packet and behind the fire chief's report, which you have over there in written format, You have the call statistics, which he ran through for us briefly. Just giving us the overall numbers, the 161 total, the 39 calls from the township. 23 of those were inside Lakes of the Four Seasons. The remainder were outside of that. And then behind that, the last kind of freestanding paper that looks like an email, looks like this, is the email that Mr. Vandowski was referring to that came from the fire chief that illustrates the current quotes or the current anticipated cost for either having a new build ambulance, a remounted ambulance, or the demo ambulance. So not something, again, that we have to come to a decision on today, but it is something we have to keep in mind because it really is one of our two highest priority fire needs right now, second possibly only to the pumper tanker. Yes. And so I really would encourage board members to take this packet home, really read and kind of make sure you're familiar with this particular email, because I do think that although we're not making a decision today, I do think this is probably one of the bigger decisions we have to make in the next 6 months. Any questions on that? Okay, hearing none, we're going to go back then and we'll do the trustee update and then we will get on out of here. Going back to the report that looks like this, it's just a little chart here, the usual trustee update report. So starting with township assistance, year to date through August. So remember, this doesn't include anything in September. But one thing you'll notice, and I'll preface this by saying, is we have had a dramatic increase in township assistance over the last 6 weeks. You obviously won't see all of that reflected here. You'll start to see some of it because, I don't know about you guys, but I can't remember the last time we had a report where we had 6 new initial applications. So I can also tell you that we were at the Indiana Townships Association conference for almost all of last week, Monday through Wednesday, meaning I was only here Thursday. And we have received township assistance requests for the last 5 days, every day for the last 5 business days we've operated. So, we're getting them daily. In fact, there was an individual who came in to apply for township assistance at like 3:10 this afternoon. She just came to the door. So we're getting a lot of it, and a lot of it is the increase in the NIPSCO bills. But the other side of it is, and as we're starting to see with the increase of some of these subdivisions, is there's a heavy increase in the number of people coming to us asking for rental assistance. And so that is somewhat concerning. And we can talk about more of that individually as we go, but I just wanted to preface that up front. So again, year to date through the end of August, again, keeping in mind nothing from September is included here yet. On the year, we have had a total of 28 initial applications. So that means there have been 28 families that have come in at some point this year seeking or submitting an initial application for township assistance. 6 of those 28 are new over that last month, meaning 6 of those 28 happened in August. The total number of continuing applications on the year, so these are of those 28 families, there have been at least 18 additional instances where some of those people have come back and asked for a second or potentially third or fourth round of assistance. 3 of those were new in the month of August. The total number of all of those applications that were just completely approved was 14. The total number partially approved was 30, and the total number just completely denied was 2. And again, you're going to see that number of total partially approved go up, I think, continuously now, because again, a lot of those are from individuals seeking rental or mortgage assistance, where we have the township assistance guidelines that specify a maximum we can pay to, and we can only pay to that amount. And so we will do partial approvals in those instances because it can't be considered a total approval because we can't pay $3,800 a month for somebody's rent. And I'm not making that number. That's up. That's a real number. As scary as that sounds, that's a real number that people right here in Winfield Township, in fact, the town of Winfield, pay for rent on a 3-bedroom home. Right here, like right across the street.
That's rent, not a mortgage.
Rent, not a mortgage. $3,800 a month. In fact, in the Aylesworth subdivision over the last, we'll call it 2 months, we've had 3 individuals from just that, so 3 different families from that subdivision come and apply for rental assistance. And we have seen rents, the 3 rents we have seen are $3,200, $3,300, and $3,800 a month. And obviously, I mean, I'm
They're
looking at,
renting to people that can't.
exactly, and that's the
No
concern,
kidding,
right?
that's
And,
not right.
and,
When they
and
live there a couple months and they.
some of
have
these,
to-
some of these, it's like 1 month in and they need help. And you have to ask the question of what kind of financial vetting
Don't
are
they,
you
they
doing?
have to interview these people. How can they approve that? That's not right.
I mean, we hear about predatory lending, and I'm not gonna slander anybody, but it makes you wonder if that's going on in this instance with the rentals. You know, when we look at this too, because you gotta think, I mean, we use fair market rent values, so the amount we can pay towards somebody's rent or mortgage is based on the federal fair market rent value. And I'm pretty sure for those 3-bedroom homes, it's like $12.85, I think, is the max we can pay a month. And so I mean, think about that. And the only way we can deliver that assistance in that instance is if they agree to pay the difference. You know what I mean? And because we can't, we're not just gonna pay on something if it's just retiring debt, right? Debt servicing is not, that's not what township assistance is for. So I mean, there's already that extra layer on top of it of basically they have to agree or prove to us that they can do it. And we follow up, we make them show us their next rental statement, you know, to show was that payment received by the landlord. But it really makes you question how a person who, there's one specific example where there's a person who hadn't worked for years and had been renting this apartment for this house for less than 6 months and needed rental assistance. And they had not had a on paper job since 2023. And the only job they had between 2018 and 2023 was working for themselves, and they have no prior work experience or work history before that. I don't know how somebody rents in those instances, you know?
That's
So
just taking
it's very
advantage.
concerning. And I talked to some of the other trustees, and they'll have this. They'll have sort of this pocket of rentals, and you know, down in like the Lowell area, that's in a couple of the trailer parks. But in a couple of other areas, it's just you have a pocket of renters where maybe this one landlord owns 4 or 5 houses, and this is what they do. Again, we haven't had that for my first 3 years in office. Not that Barb and I have had a discussion about this, but I never got the impression that Paulette or you guys faced anything like that when she was here. So this is a relatively new issue for us.
Yeah.
So we're watching it, anxious about it, but
Yeah.
we're also stuck in a hard place where if we aren't going to help these people, nobody else is. And so it's, how do you balance that, right?
Who do you notify? Is there anybody that you can?
So
Okay.
a couple of things. So if we eventually build up enough evidence to say that we think this is sort of like a predatory rental situation, we can refer them to the Attorney General's office to the, they have a specific unit that handles this, the homeowner's property rental, it's some unit, I can't remember what it's called anymore. I should know that, having worked there. So you can do that. You can also refer them to the county. I'm not exactly sure which office, but I know you can do that as well. But all of those are going to be elongated processes. There's not going to be any immediate relief in that instance. So what other trustees have done is they will refuse to pay rent to specific landlords. They will in effect blacklist landlords. I really don't want to do that, but I also will tell you that if this is going to continue at the rate it's happening, we may have to consider that.
You're hurting the people.
Correct. And it's, they know what they're doing. They know they're not going to get the full rent. I think in those instances is we're going to try and get what we can, you know, and I don't agree with that, you know? So,
Well, and I don't know if it, want to mention that the one guy even came here.
yeah, there was an instance. So this landlord, he's the representative of the landlord, but we cut a check for an individual. We cut the check on like the 25th of the month, and it was for the rent due on the 1st. And they've been having a post office box issue because all those checks get sent to a post office box. But because they hadn't received it within like 7 days or less than 7 days, they were like, can you just cut another check and we'll just come and get it? In that instance, we did it because they were able to show us that they got the notification. You know how you can get the email notification saying you're going to get mail? They had got the email notification saying they had mail at their post office box. When they went there, it wasn't there. They had had issues previously where checks went to the wrong post office box and ended up somewhere. So they came to us saying you might want to, you know, stop payment and write another check, which we ultimately did. But I made them wait because I didn't even have proof that it, you know what I mean? That until they showed me the proof, there was no evidence of was the check just in the mail. As everybody knows, stopping payment on check costs money.
Right.
State Board of Accounts doesn't particularly like us doing that anyway or voiding checks. In this instance, we were able to get the check back. It finally came back. Barb has appropriately taken care of it, but not, and truthfully, a thank you to Centir, they waived the stop payment fee on this, so we didn't have to eat that either. But my point in saying it was not a good experience. I've never had a landlord show up demanding a check before, so it was concerning. It was. Did I cover that? Right? Okay. Any questions on, before we go off of township assistance, if you turn the page, that's the secondary township assistance report. So you can see the folks' case numbers there on the far left. The middle column that says assistance type, you can see where it says housing, utility gas, waste storm water, utility electric, utility water. Those are what we help folks with. If you keep going right, you'll see two columns. The third and second to the last, it says requested and approved. So the requested column is what the resident requested from us. The approved column is what we ended up paying. So again, an exact example that I was talking about. It's an exact example because if you look at the case number 2025-12 means that they were the 12th new person this year, meaning they hadn't ever had to ask for assistance from us before. And they asked for $3,300 for housing assistance. So you can tell the story I told you was a very real one because it's in fact right on paper, the paper in front of you. And you can see I was right on what I thought I remembered of. We can pay $1,285 with that. But you can see those again right below it's the $3,200. If you go down just a little bit, the one not listed here is the $3,800. I think that's the one we denied.
Well, it would still be on there, but it might be September,
Okay.
so it wouldn't be on this report.
Oh, no. The 3,200 is the one we denied. The 3,800 might have been that one that was in September and it's not on this report. But if you look, that 3,200, we actually didn't approve it. We did pay the electric, but we did not pay that.
Yeah, what was the reason that I don't remember.
That was the individual who hadn't worked since 2023.
And I don't know if you want to mention also that the budget for assistance has been.
Yeah, so you can see here, the different things we paid. Yes, we will talk about that. And as I've indicated to you, if you have any questions about any of the specific instances, I'm happy to talk about it. But as I've indicated to you, we've seen a drastic increase. And when we met at our regular meeting last month, I indicated that I figured by the end of September, we would use all of our township assistance funds we in fact had, as Becky has just indicated. So now when we pay township assistance, and it won't be reflected on this one, but starting on the report you see next month, so the September report, all of those township assistance requests are paid out of the rainy day fund right now. And I mean, that was $30,000, and that was $10,000 more than Paul had ever spent in a year. And we keep spending. I indicated today there was a $600 and something request for a NIPSCO bill, and earlier today before that there was a $1,078 request for a NIPSCO bill that was a cutoff. That wasn't even just the total; that was the amount that had to be paid to avoid cutoff. So. Some of these things are crazy. Part of my complaint is that NIPSCO, Kankakee Valley, and others, when the townships help them, they tend to let those people go longer without disconnects because I think they assume the township's going to provide additional assistance. And that's really a bad thing because it saddles us with a larger bill than we really normally otherwise would have to pay. Because if you and I went a month or two without paying it, we'd get the disconnect notice. But sometimes these people go 4, 5, 6 months without one. And I understand that maybe they think they're doing us the benefit of not turning off people's power if we're going to pay for it. But I also think it has the unintended consequence of putting townships on the string for much higher bills than we should. Anything else on township assistance there? Okay. Food pantry usage. So August 2025, total number of visits. So this was the lowest month I have had since March of 2023. I just want you to know that. We've only had a total of 27 visits in the month of August. Those were made up by 23 individual households. So 4 of those households came twice. We served 80 individuals. The total of new households, so of those 23 households, 13 of them were new. That generally means that they're not residents of the township, but not always. Of those new households, they represent 47 new individuals. And like I said a second ago, of the 13 new households, 12 of them were non-residents. So only one of them was a new regular customer. So again, those 12 households represented 40 non-resident individuals. Total pounds of food received was 4,086. Total pounds of food donated was 1,295. And total monetary donations received in the month of August was 500. I can already tell you all of those numbers have gone up for this month by quite a lot. The only one that might not have gone up by a tremendous amount is the total amount of food received, but that's because we're pretty consistent on that from month to month. Next, okay, any questions on food pantry? Okay, the next thing that I am going to do is go into building maintenance. The only thing on building maintenance you have here is this thing from Selective Insurance. It should be the next thing in your packet. So as you all know, we had the water incident upstairs that we are still unfortunately in the process of getting fully finished. This was the final response from Selective Insurance. So the full cost of the repair that they covered was $4,804.61. But our deductible was $2,500, so we had to pay up to that, which means we got a check for $2,300 from them. We have, if you look in the bathrooms, the drywall's already been fixed, the painting's already been fixed. Upstairs, we're still waiting on the cabinets to be delivered. There was some type of manufacturer's delay from Schilling. I hope to have them in place by the end of this week. Fingers crossed, that's what I was told. But they've already done the drywalling and all that up there, so it's just the installation of the cabinets and then the new dishwasher.
Which cabinets ended up being replaced?
So everything from the wall over to basically the corner. And then there was one cabinet door that was just broken on this side. And so they're not covering that, but we're fixing that. And we got the trim fixed too. And the trim's already done on the, like with the dishwasher, not the dishwasher, where the laundry and stuff is on the side there. It's a very close match. It's not an exact match because it would be pretty much impossible to do that, but very close match. And actually I've seen examples of the wood, and as it ages, it'll actually look just like it because it will it turns redder, basically reddish blonde. So I feel pretty comfortable with that. But yeah, so really we're just waiting on that. We've already got the money in there. Everything's been paid back out. The only one we haven't closed the deal on is still Hen & Sons, and that's because they haven't installed everything. But otherwise, for the most part, this is taken care of. The insurance portion is closed out. And like I said, we're just waiting on the final installation of the cabinets. Higgins overhead door, we approved the quote last meeting to fix the door, to replace the doors outside. I'm just waiting, they're waiting on the parts to come in, and then they'll give me a date when they're gonna actually do the replacement on the doors. So the doors work, they're operational right now, but because they're the old doors and there's no more new parts, they're gonna do a full replacement on 2 of them. So again, they're waiting on those parts to come in, but when they have that, they'll give us a final date of installation, and I'll let you know when that happens.
Isn't it the openers?
Correct.
Yeah.
Not the doors, the openers.
Yeah, there's multiple components that they're changing though, so it's not, you're right, it's not, yes, but there's more to it.
Knowing that we talked about this the last meeting and that too, that, other doors would eventually be an issue. Are we is the plan to attack these one by one, or?
So there's what, 4 out there, or is there 5?
There's 5 days.
Okay,
It's
so
10 total.
right, and it's like $3,000. So my thought was we do the 2 this year and do 2 next year, and then knock out the 5th one either next year or the year after.
Or was that
Because we
10?
have, what?
It'd be 10 doors.
Yeah, 10
Right,
total.
2 sets though.
2
I
sets,
saw the 2
yeah.
sets,
Yeah.
but yes, you're correct. But that was my thought, was knock out the 2 this year, 2
I
next
just want to
year.
make
and
sure we're still on the same.
Yep, because
idea
so
of
for
a
instance,
plan.
in the budget, that's that $15,000 of other, yep, so,
I remember,
exactly.
I remember talking about that last
Yeah.
meeting in the budget, so I just want to make sure that was still kind of the same.
100%. No, well, absolutely, because just like with the wall packs, the lights on the outside,
Yep, that was the other thing. we
this
talked
one
about.
went, and then that one went, and this one went, and then that one went, and then that one, so,
And
yes.
piecemealing them sometimes ends up be
It just
more
depends,
than-
right?
Yeah,
Exactly. But yeah, so we are watching that, but yeah, my thought was do 2 years this year, do 2 sets next year, and either the third or we'll do the third by itself. And obviously, if something were to break, we'll just handle it then, but we're trying to stretch the dollar a little bit, folks.
I agree.
Excellent. Any other questions on that, though? Okay. So like I said, as soon as I hear from Higgins, I will get you guys the update on the overhead door stuff. And as soon as those cabinets go in, you'll probably hear me whoop from here wherever you are, because I'm so tired of, no offense, but I'm so tired of the upstairs in this building. Okay, moving on to our last piece then before announcements is just the financial reports. Those should be the next 3 items in your packet. The top one is the disbursements report. So you can see here. Super relevant. So you can see, I mean, anything that has like community utilities or any of those are all assistance, unless it says it's our utility, which means it would be paid out of the township general fund. You can see where we paid for Higgins to do just on the second page there in the middle. You'll see where we paid Higgins to just do the maintenance on the doors to make sure it was usable while we waited to get them replaced. If you turn to page 3 of the disbursement report and you look up at the top there, and you can see there's a $1,285 check made out from direct assistance to a bunch of letters and an LLC. And I'm specifically not saying this out loud, that's the landlord we've been talking about. Sherry looks like she maybe doesn't. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
The landlord.
Yeah, I know the landlord, but
problem.
I don't know what the letters would stand for.
They don't stand for
Oh,
anything.
oh,
I'm just saying
okay.
that's
That
the
is-
name, that's the
That's the
company.
name of the company. Yes, yes.
I just wanted to
I
point that out.
was thinking maybe you just did that
No,
so that you would.
that's how
Okay, that was
they're,
like a code or
that's how they're
something.
structured. That's the name of
Okay,
their
all right.
corporation.
Okay,
But I wanted to point out that that's the
But
landlord
that's
that we've
the-
been
okay.
concerned about.
okay.
And then Monroe Pass down towards the bottom of that page, you'll see the 295. That's one of the 2 annual springs we've done at the community center. So this building gets done monthly. Standalone buildings like the community center get done twice a year. So you can see that. 4th page. You can see the Serve Pro there we paid out. That was for the mold remediation upstairs. So towards the bottom of the 4th page, you see that. One thing that's not reflected here, but we actually got both of our printers replaced through the same company. So T&T Business Systems, towards the bottom of the 4th page there. That's just our normal, there's 2 charges there. Those are just our normal monthly contract fees with them. But our oldest printer, which was our best printer, the one in Barb's office, that was just antiquated. That one's least life was over. The Lexmark, which is a little one that's right in the lobby that you see, that's next to that desk that I use, that was our worst printer in the building, and they changed that one out early for us at no cost. So we do have 2 new printers now, just know that.
What brand do we get?
So they're both the same because it's through the same company, so it's through their contracts. But they're just newer models, and so far no issue.
Oh, that's good.
Yep. And then, so yeah, one's a Lexmark and one's a Canon. Right? Canon? The big one?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then, okay, good example. If you turn to the very last page of the disbursements report, and you look at the top, and there's 4 charges there for 4 different disbursements to the town of Winfield. That's us paying wastewater or trash or whatever for a person who lives in the town of Winfield. But if you look over, you'll see the first 2 are paid out of direct assistance, and then the second 2 are paid out of rainy day. That illustrates what I was talking about earlier of how we have used up all of our rainy day funds.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, not rainy day, township assistance. For receipts, most of this is rental related. So the 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th are all rentals, community center rentals. The contractual services where it says town of Winfield, that's their rent. You see the 2 different ones. The difference is based off of what they're paying for utilities, because they pay utilities based off of some algorithm. that I've never seen. And then you can see we got 2 donations to the food pantry. One is a regular donation that we get from the Hall Family Foundation. We get it once a year, so very appreciative of that. We sent a thank you letter back. The looks of the Four Seasons Fire Department paid us $500, which is kind of a new one, but that's because the contract says that when we do renovation, if it exceeds $500, they pay the first $500 and then we pay the rest. So that was their portion of that payment, which, just so everybody knows, was receipted right back into the fire fund, so they're gonna get it back. And then you can see below that is the miscellaneous receipts from Selective Insurance that we then put into the system. All right. Last but not least, then, you have the month-end balance sheet. So that's the standalone page behind that. And again, really the biggest thing there is, and this is as of today, because this was printed today, that last column there on the right where it says cash available, that's just your current operating balance. So again, you know, a little more than $34,000 in rainy day, 272,000 in township general, 41,000 in donations, 13,000 in township assistance, 408,000 in firefighting, 316,000 in King Fire, 28,000 in Parks and Rec, 113,000 in Lloyd, and $1,500 in payroll deductions, which that fund comes out of the general fund. So I'm not really sure why that listed separately like that. But we are on track to end the year so we got to remember, we still have not received our December settlement. So we've not received about 40% of all the tax dollars we'll get this year. So we are on track to end with probably about $1 million in cash on hand within fire general and Cuban Fire.
I think I can explain that payroll deduction.
Okay.
I think when she does payroll, the taxes automatically go into that. And then when she actually pays the taxes, then it zeroes the amount out.
Okay, that makes sense. You can't fund it the way I can fund a normal fund, so that's why I said I really don't understand how.
Yeah, I think it puts it aside when she does, like I said, when she does payroll.
Okay, that makes sense. And it has to do something because, I don't know. All right, so that ends the trustees' report. I'll hand it back to the board president to see if there's any additional new business before the board.
Anybody have any new business? If not, we did our announcement.
We didn't do the announcements.
Yeah, we're gonna do it.
Oh,
Yeah. All right, we'll do the announcements real fast. Winfield Fall Cleanup Day is Saturday, October 11th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. here at the Winfield Government Complex on the back side of the building. There's a flyer in your packet. So if you know anybody who needs to get rid of residential household items, paper, electronics, anything like that, we can send them our way on this day. Because if you don't, they'll have to either go to another community or they'll have to wait until the spring. Following that, on Saturday, October 25th, we have the second annual Trunk or Treat. That will be from 3 to 5 p.m. in Randolph Street Park. We participated last year. It was very well attended. They anticipate even more children this year, so we're anticipating about 700 kids. So we're going to buy lots and lots of candy. So if anybody wants to come out and help, we'd be more than happy to have you. But again, 3 to 5, Randolph Street Park, we line up in that parking lot and they make like a loop. Very fun. And then last but certainly not least, our next meeting of this board is our October regular meeting. So no special meetings between now and then. That's a good thing. We've had a couple of those lately. That meeting is Monday, October 27th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. right here in this same room. That's all my announcements. Back to you, sir.
Is there any other business for the township? If not, township board is meeting has been adjourned.